الصلاة والسلام.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll start by saying Ramadan Mubarak. It's already halfway gone. May Allah count us worthy of its full rewards. Today I'll be talking to you about an entity that a lot of people are totally unaware of, but it's so common. It's called digital eye disease, or alternative name, computer vision syndrome. And so you'll probably better understand what we're getting at with the second name, the computer vision syndrome. It's the digital age, and computers are everywhere, and other electronic devices, and it's the latest fad. Everybody feels that their home or their office or their setup is incomplete if there's no cell phone, tablets, computer, and what have you. And so today we'll be addressing an entity called the digital eye disease, or alternatively, computer vision syndrome. Yeah, next slide please. So by way of definition, sorry, can I possibly have the lights? I don't know who's controlling the lights. Can I have the lights off, please? Including these ones, just so people can have a better view. Okay, is that it? Any more lights going off? Okay, fine. So, so by way of definition, okay, good. Computer vision syndrome, it comprises of a group of eye and vision related problems that result from prolonged use of electronic devices, such as computers, tablets, cell phones, e-readers, and whatever other electronic device that has a screen. Now the question is, who's using devices? Literally everybody. Everyone, from students to workers to traders, the unemployed, the elderly, and even children, in fact from infancy. So we now see children holding cell phones and playing with laptops and tablets and what have you. So literally everybody. Now, how extensive is this problem? Why are we talking about it? Is it really a problem? Well, I'll tell you that according to epidemiological studies in the US, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health says that CVS affects 90% of people who spend more than 3 hours a day at a computer. And so 90% of this group of people, and I'm sure most people spend more than 3 hours a day at a computer, would experience symptoms of this problem. In Malaysia, amongst university students aged 18 to 25 years, almost 800 people studied. Again, about 90% had some symptoms. Now, what are the symptoms of this computer vision syndrome we're talking about? Now, eye strain. I'm an ophthalmologist. People come into my clinic, complain all the time, and these are the kind of complaints that I hear. You know, eyes are aching, they feel the eyes are strained whilst they are working, and then watering, heaviness, redness. People complain about headaches, especially in frontal headaches, blurry vision. So sometimes after a while, their focus is all blurry and they can no longer see prints clearly. Then dry eye. Some people would complain that the eye actually feels dry. So they're looking left and right and they just feel that there's some dryness. Or some people may feel that there's a foreign body sensation, like maybe, you know, pebbles in the eye, or they may just feel the eye is peppery. This is all part of dry eye. And then double vision. So sometimes the view actually, the image splits into two and the person sees one letter as doubled and they are unable to read. And part of computer vision syndrome is also neck and shoulder pain, which are not part of the eye, but is caused by something related to vision. Now, what are the factors that contribute to all these symptoms, people developing all these symptoms? Poor or excessive lighting. So there's an optimal amount of light, you know, for everybody. Some people are very sensitive to light, some people less so. But generally speaking, we all have a control in the eyes. We have a little hole. For those who are familiar with the anatomy of the eye, there's a small hole. If you were to shine a torch or any source of light into a person's eye, you will see a very small hole in there. And what you will observe when you shine the light immediately, if you're quick, is that that hole becomes smaller. It constricts. That's called the pupil in the eye. Its function is to regulate how much light is coming into the eye. There's a certain amount of light that might be damaging. And so when you're in a very brightly lit room, this pupil remains very small. Contrary to that, when you're in a dark room, as you are right now, if we could see your pupil now, it has enlarged because it wants to now optimize how much light is coming into the eye because the room is dark. And so when you have either poor or excessive lighting, this tends to strain the eye. There's poor lighting, you're straining to see. That means more demand on the eye's focus mechanism. If there's excessive light, this muscle is overacting. It's staying constricted for so long. It's like you running round a block severally. Your muscles are going to get tired and ache. It's the same thing that happens in the eye. The other factor is glare on a digital screen. Severally, people would say that they're looking at their screen and then they're just light. Perhaps it's the position of the device. Maybe it's near a window, maybe the sun is streaming in a funny direction, or maybe overhead lights in an office, just glinting over the surface. That tends to create reflexes that can also strain the eye, because each time that muscle encounters excessive lights, it will constrict, and it will stay constricted until the light normalizes. And so part of what contributes to developing these symptoms is glare on a screen. Then the character of the digital prints. Now, character of digital prints, when I say character, I mean what you're looking at. The prints is different than when you're writing with a pen and ink. And so if you write little digital images are made up of pixels. So you have many little imprecise granular characters put together to form, what looks like a bold stroke. But in actual fact, your brain can tell when it's a solid ink line and when it's little pixels put together. Digital images are pixels, and this is more strenuous for the brain and the eye's mechanism to focus on. And so the character of the print is part of what's contributing. It's more likely that you'll be more comfortable reading the same material of a book than if it was a device. Now, improper viewing distance. We have different sorts of devices, people hold them at different distances. Your e-books, you can hold like your regular book. Your laptop is set at a different distance. If you put it on your lap, if you put it on your table, the computer, the desktop is also at a different distance. And so if you have a viewing distance that does not complement the state of your eye, then there's a problem. If you're a short-sighted person, then you see better for reading near work. So you're likely to be able to see your device clearer if it's closer to you as compared to someone who is long-sighted, who sees better at far and needs this device to be a little away, further away. And so the state of your vision also matters because it contributes. Now, length or frequency of viewing time. Naturally, logically, the longer you work, the more work your eyes are doing and the more strain the muscles get. So it's different when you have, for instance, I'm probably busy all day in the office doing more desk work, seeing patients, and then occasionally I realize, I need to check an article or check a mail or something. And so I might work, if I put together all the time that I've spent cumulatively on a typical clinic day, I may not have spent more than an hour. 5 minutes now, 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, but on other days when it's quite a quiet day, I can decide this morning is for academic study, and I might study for 3-4 hours. And so the length of time matters. The longer you read for, the more frequently you read, the more you're likely to have these kind of symptoms. Then poor sitting posture. Now, a lot of people don't realize, we're going to have a slide later on that would highlight the issue of sitting posture. But a lot of people don't realize that they're not sitting, in the right manner when they're reading. So we have this way of, maybe when we have our illustration, we'll talk about it so we can all understand what we're talking about. Then uncorrected visual problems. Earlier on, I talked about long-sighted, short-sightedness, but I'll tell you there's so many other errors. They all go by their various fancy names, presbyopia, astigmatism, and what have you. But the point is that it's a problem whereby you're not able to focus clearly on your own, and you need like a pair of glasses to help you focus better so that there's less strain on the eye. Then air currents. So when you're sat in the position where you're directly under a fan, or there's an AC and the vent is blowing directly at you, that may be a problem. And that's because whilst our eyes are open, you know, our eyes, let me start by saying that our eyes need to be moist. Our eyes need to be moist. Every eye has fluid. If you look at anybody's eye, you see that there's a shiny, when you shine a light, it looks, there's a glint, like fluid on the surface coming back at you. That's because, that's what, you know, there's some amount of tears in our eyes all the time. Of course, not the quantity that you have when you're crying, but there's a basic amount of tears being constantly produced, which helps to wet our eyes. You will not see clearly if your eyes are not wet, if the surface isn't wet. And that's the whole idea behind blinking. You don't know, but the brain can sense when the surface of the eye is dry. And so it's an order that is given to the eyelid to blink. So when it blinks, it helps to spread a new layer of wetness over the eyeball. But you know, you then leave your eyes open for a while, and once it's open, environmental factors are drying up that layer of fluid. Air current, heat, cold, and just the exposure is drying it up. And so once it's dry, you blink again. So what makes you blink is you need to replenish that surface. Therefore, when you have air currents, I mean, if you had a wet cloth and you dry it in front of the AC, you just leave it in front of the AC, it's going to get dry very quickly. And so air currents help to dry anything, including the eyes. And that's what we're saying, that if you're sat in a position where you have air currents, be it AC or fan or whatever, you know, then you're going to have the tendency to have, you know, dryness as part of this whole syndrome we're talking about. Of course, it can be a combination of any of these contributing factors. So any one person can have more than one of these factors, you know, significant. Next slide, please. Right, so just to highlight what we said earlier about the character of digital prints. So we're saying that digital prints are different than ink prints. And so digital screens are imprecise. The lettering, they are pixels making up what looks like the stroke. And they're not like having solid ink on paper. And so that makes it more difficult for the brain. There's less contrast in your digital screen, more contrast on your paper. So you have a white piece of paper, black ink, it gives you more of the way in which your brain can differentiate those colors will not be so strenuous compared to when you're dealing with a digital device. Now, also, light interplay. We talked about glare and reflections and everything for digital screens. More so when you're shifting from screen to screen. Sometimes you're shifting from page to page. One page is lighter, the other page is darker. You know, all of that activity in a way strains the eye. But if you are reading a book quietly, it's the same lighting conditions. You have a book, and whatever amount of light you have in the room, you're flipping page to page, it's the same intensity of light that you encounter. But with a digital screen, you're shifting from Facebook to Yahoo to something else, dark, light, bright, not. And so that variation is also part of the problem, and it is so much less so for a book. Now, lastly, there's more varied viewing angles and distances. So for instance, you're on a screen, whether it's a game you're playing or whether it's something academic you're doing, your eyes are flitting from position to position. When you look to the right, the angle that part of the book subtends to your eye is different from when you look up and down and left again. There's less variation in your direction of gaze when you're reading a book. Because usually a book just gives you logical follow-through from the beginning to the end. Whereas for a digital device, you're working here, something pops up there, or indeed you go looking for something else, and so there's just more activity going on, and this is all so much more strenuous on the eye and the brain. Yes. Right, so what we're saying about proper ergonomics. Now, if you look at this person, this is the ideal way to sit when you're dealing with a device. With your back straight, you can see he has a very good chair. The chair has this curve that accommodates what you call the small of the back. Between the upper back and the buttock, you can see there's a nice, it's snug, it's well fitted to his back. So there's no bending of the muscles. Once you don't sit back, and that's a big problem. Most people work slouched over like that. That's wrong. Very, very, anybody, children, adults, once you slouch over, you have changed the natural orientation of the muscles of your back. The muscles of the back just like the muscles of the neck are linear muscles like that. They were made to stay straight. Therefore, if you sit and you're slouched over, you've bent them and you've put them under more pressure and they're going to get strained. And so sitting up with the back well supported, shoulders straight, no slouching forwards, neck straight, you don't look down. Recently, if you Google up what you call text neck, there's now an entity called text neck, because people just have their heads down like that and they're busy on their phones. Now, that puts a lot of pressure on the spine, the part of the neck, the spine in the neck, because it wasn't meant to carry so much weight. Once your head is straight, the weight of your head is well balanced and distributed down the spine. Once you do that, you have put a lot of, it's like having a flower. If you imagine that this is a flower with a stalk, and then assume that the bulbous end like this is heavy. When you do this, there's equally distributed weight. The moment you bend this, you put a lot of pressure on that junction. And if it was going to break, it will break at that junction. And it's the same concept for us as humans. So you must keep your neck straight. That's the reason why people have neck ache, back ache. Sometimes people would come and complain and give them all sorts of drugs, keep giving them drugs. It's never going to work because the main problem is the wrong posture. And then the eye level, where the distance between your eye, the downward angle between your eye, where you're sat, and your device should be between 4 and 5 inches. Once your device is too low, maybe because your table is too low, there's a problem, because then you're now, the same text neck thing we just talked about, your neck, you're now going to have to depress your head, and therefore you've altered that relationship of the neck muscles that I talked about. This is just what is ideal. This doesn't call for him to bend his neck. All he needs to do is look up, look down, and his eyes can cover that, because his material is just about 4 or 5 inches below his eye level. Once it's too high or too low, then there's an issue. We will come back again to talk about this when we talk about children. Also, sorry, please, previous slide. Yes, you will notice that his hands are resting. His arm is resting on the table. So you must use a device. If it's a desktop or a laptop, the laptop is on your table, your hand, your forearm should be resting on the table. Once your forearm is lifted like that, you're working, there's a lot of pressure on your shoulder and your neck. And so you should relax it, and indeed, if possible, your wrist should be resting also on the table. That way, there's no pressure on any muscle. So this is all very important. Your feet on the floor. And so when we come back to talk about children, we will talk about these features again. Okay, next slide. Right, so the peculiarities of children. Like I said, the children are not exempt now. They're very much in the tech world and all using all the devices and everything. And so they're likely to, suffer more from this digital eye syndrome that I'm talking about. Not just because they're young, not just the age factor, but because, for instance, there are other things that are peculiar to them. They have a limited degree of self-awareness. Unlike the adults, where okay, fine, I'm doing this, and then I'll do this for half an hour, and then I have to know. Once the child gets a device, it has arrested their attention for hours if you leave them. So they just take one game to the other. Maybe the battery runs out, then that's it. But otherwise, if it was possible to have infinite battery time, they will stick with it. Even when they start to have symptoms. As an adult, your eye starts aching, you take a break, you leave it. A child will not. They will keep on at it, they will suppress that feeling, they will ignore it, because they are just so taken in by all the light, color display, things jumping up and down, all the sounds. And so they have less awareness, so they're likely to ignore warning signs and continue anyway with what they're doing. And so that's why they may suffer more from these problems. Adaptability, which is tolerance. Okay, in explaining the self-awareness, I also talked about adaptability, which means you have pain, your neck is aching, but you ignore it anyway, and you continue what you're doing because you're still excited with what you're looking at. And then the use of adult computer sets. Yes, please, let's go back to that other diagram. Yes. Now, I just told you the ideal position, to avoid these sort of problems. Now, for children, it's hardly ever the case that people have a different setup for children. Children don't have even when they have their own computers, they are on the same height, table height, as you're using as an adult. Now, I'm not referring to the children who are already taller than us, not those ones. I'm talking about the little ones. So they sit down at daddy or mommy's desk, and their heads, first of all, wrong position, the head is up because they have to look upwards to see the screen. That's the first thing. The same thing, they have to extend their hands upwards, their back cannot rest, their feet are dangling in the air, not feet on the ground, and so all these are problems. When they look up, the upper lid, when you look up, your upper lid retracts. It goes up more than if you were looking straight ahead. And this exposes the eye more. And we've talked about dryness. So quite apart from straining their muscles with inadequate posture, the tendency to have dryness is higher. And so they're like eyes open, looking up, they're excited, they're not concentrating on any other thing. Now also, most of us are born long-sighted. Most babies are born long-sighted. Now, long-sighted means that you can adapt better for seeing afar than for what is really close. And so the other thing that happens with a lot of the time with children at devices is they're sitting almost with their face in the device, in the monitor. And so, or whether it's a phone or whatever, they're so close. And this strains the focus mechanism of the eye more. And so these are all the kind of peculiarity. Lighting is also a factor. Next one, please. Too much lighting often, even for children. And we just talked about how lighting can affect us. Okay, so what's the solution? What do we do? We need to get regular eye checks. That's very important. That's because you need to know the state of your eyes. For most people, if I ask you now, what are you? Astigmatic, they can't tell me. So if you do not know, how do you know what your ideal viewing distance is? How do you know that you shouldn't be wearing a pair of glasses to work at your computer? There are people who do not need to wear glasses for any other purpose, but they need it when they work with the computer. And that is because we can also put other coatings on your lens. So if you're occupationally on a computer, some people work, they tell me, 24/7, then you must have an anti-glare coating on to help you bounce away some of these lights. Then moderation of length, distance, and frequency of exposure. So you have to check what you're doing and stick with what's really important. Don't expose yourself unnecessarily. Don't stay on the screen for too long. I mean, do social media if it's really necessary, but don't spend hours and hours whiling away on trivial matters and your eyes are taking the impact without you, sometimes even without you realizing it. So this is important. You have to moderate that. Proper ergonomics. We've just talked about the proper posture, when you're sat at a table working on a computer. And then rest your eyes regularly. There's something called the rule 20-20-20. Whether it's really doable, I don't know. Each time I tell corporate people, they laugh. And I tell them, rule 20-20-20 says, after every 20 minutes of being at a device, take your eye away and look 20 feet, that's about 6 meters. In short, look into the distance and for 20 seconds and then go back to work. What that does is to reverse that process of that muscle constricting. Because you've looked afar, it will relax for a while and then you can come back. But people tell me 20 minutes, and before I know it's 2 hours and I didn't even realize I was working. And so for a lot of people, they feel it's not feasible. But you must work out some point at which you take a break, maybe once within an hour. Just take your eye away from the screen. Look really far. If you're near a window, look out into the horizon for about 20-30 seconds. Or shut your eye. 20-30 seconds. Just don't fall asleep. Or don't shut your eye too frequently, lest your boss thinks that you're sleeping at work. And then remember to blink. You actually have to remind yourself, when you're concentrating on something, you can actually forget to blink. So your eyes are open for such a long time, and you're encouraging dryness in the eye. Then we're using of wetting agents. A lot of us, most of us, as we get older, we'll go ahead and develop dry eye anyway, which means that the glands that should have been producing that wetting fluid, their function declines just because of getting older. And so you will need eye drops that are wetting agents. So some people need to do that to see clearer. Adjust the font size and the illumination. Some devices have screens that you can put over to sort of limit the illumination so there's not too much light. That's the other thing that you can do. And then you can increase the font size. The larger the font size, of course, the easier it is to focus. And so these are some of the things that we can do. Next slide, please. Right, we want you to take special caution with children, the elderly, and pregnant women. That's because it's a device, and every device radiates something. Whether it's radiating rays that are harmful or not is the question. Of course, there's been a lot of speculation about whether devices can cause cancer. In truth, there's no conclusive evidence to support that right now. That sort of relationship takes a very long time to establish between, radiation and radiation in the sense of ionizing radiation, like from a nuclear plant or from X-rays. That's well established. But I'm talking about the frequency of devices, which is not the same sort of radiation with X-rays and co. We call that non-ionizing, So whether or not in the long term, it will take decades to prove. So, but right now, we're just saying, don't take a risk. You should protect yourself. Don't be one of those that would help them conclude that, after all, it causes cancers and other things. So that's my attitude. Now, moderate your use of devices to only what is minimally necessary. And so I will end by saying, don't join the statistics. That's what I just said. Okay, so I think that's it. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Mukaddas Olatubo Sanjala. Even though I joined the lecture late, but my question is this. Please, what is the best TV viewing position in the house?
Assalamu alaikum. My question is, look, some of us have no option but to read on the computer. Now, what can we do to minimize this? Because you say spend lesser time, but you can't spend lesser time because that's what is a tool of work. So what do you do to, minimize the effect of this?
Okay. Thank you for your questions. Right. Well, you say the ideal TV viewing distance. Did you say distance? Well, how do I measure distance? What I know is that in your regular size, okay, there's no regular size sitting room, is there? But what I know, though, is that you shouldn't be sitting anywhere within, ideally, maybe 3 feet. Not closer than 3 feet to a TV. That's too close. There's no reason why, if your vision is normal, you can't sit at 4 or 5 feet and see the TV clearly. Children get excited. Oftentimes, children would go, they want to be right near the action. So they're right there, right in front of the faces, in front of the device. There are 2 reasons a child can do that. Number one, it's just the excitement of the moment, in which case you should ask them, no, move back, sit there. Then you watch their attitude. If they continue to watch, then they don't have a problem with their vision. But there are kids who, they just get disinterested. They can't see. That's what it means. It's a symptom of being short-sighted. A short-sighted child can only see well, clearly, when he's close. And so apart from going to the board, the teachers will tell you he comes right to the board. The parents will tell you he reads very close to the face. He also wants to be near the TV because that's the only way he can see. And so if you tell such a child to shift backwards, then they get interested because it's a hazy blur. Can't see anything. So they leave. But if they continue to watch, they can see and they're following the action, laughing where they should, making comments, appropriate comments, what's going on. It means it was just that usual childhood thing about just wanting to literally be in there with the actors. And so the same thing follows for adults. If you're an adult, you're sat at 3-4 feet and it's blurry, then there's something wrong with your vision. So you shouldn't, I don't see that anyone should be sitting closer than 3 feet. In any case, like I said, these devices are emitting radiation as well. So don't go too close to them.
All praises and gratitude is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the controller of all affairs. Admonition Islamic Center ever expresses solidarity with Nigerians at this critical moment of our nationhood due to the scourge of COVID-19 globally. We especially feel for the Muslim Ummah, who from all indications will have to start the 2020 Ramadan season in complete lockdown. There won't be Taraweeh, no physical tafsir sessions, no joint iftar, no itikaf, and possibly no Eid al-Fitr prayers. For the same reason, the AIC is supposed to be 10 years this year, and arrangements have been concluded to feature 10 guest speakers for 10 hours at the prestigious National Art Theatre Igomu, Lagos on Saturday 2nd May 2020. But by Allah's will, it will not hold again. We take solace in the fact that Allah is the best of all planners and He alone knows best. We beseech Allah to spare our lives till next year's Ramadan 2021, inshallah. We pray for Allah's forgiveness, that Allah heals the world, put an end to this pandemic, and give us the privilege to be together for His sake again, to witness more Ramadan in good health. Ameen. Inshallah, our focus this 2020 Ramadan in our own little way is to provide foodstuffs to the fasting Muslims who are in need. May your rewards be great with Allah as you join us to make this dream a reality. For inquiries, call 0802 335 5870, 0808 690 5870, or 0708 378 7920. Account details: Admonition Islamic Center, Bank, Sterling Bank, account number 050 021 1796. Lukman Adekombi for AIC. Ramadan Mubarak.
The other thing I want to talk about, apart from that distance, is the viewing angle. Because oftentimes you may go to an office and then you're sat somewhere here and they have a TV on the wall, and the TV is so high up that your neck, you're actually having to elevate your neck, your chin like that to be able to see. Now that's wrong. Ideally, you should try and keep it at eye level. So whatever is for viewing, it should be eye level. Otherwise, again, you're straining the muscles. So just like you shouldn't be looking too far down to read, you should also be looking too far up to view a TV. So I'm saying this because of office situations. Then the question about occupationally being on. Yes, a lot of people are occupationally on the... Indeed, a lot of people tell me, especially those in IT, that when they're done in the office, they take the work home and it continues. So it's just those precautions. Number one, you need to know what distance your eyes are best adapted at seeing. So if you're short-sighted, what would be ideal for you is different than if you're long-sighted. That's one. Two, you need to know whether you have a significant enough long or short-sightedness to need to wear glasses to view your computer. None of this is possible if you don't visit your eye doctor. It's not something you can determine on your own. And so you may or may not be able to read. When we get to a certain age, even if we didn't use glasses as youngsters, when we get to about 40 to 45 on the average, we develop what we call presbyopia, which means the lens in your eye now becomes stiff, can no longer bend to focus on what's close. And so, whereas when you were younger than that, you could see however tiny like that, you'll find out you're having to put things at arm's length to see if they can be clearer. We call this presbyopia. And so it will be difficult to work at a device because most devices will be slightly closer than arm's length unless you're wearing corrective lenses. And whilst I use the word corrective, let me quickly say that they do not correct your vision. They only correct the view at that time when you have it on. And so if you take it off again, you're back to your eye, which is defective. And so just to quickly clear that, because I get a lot of that. Now, apart from knowing what vision you have and using appropriate lenses, if you need to, you have to try and work out a way, take visual breaks, which is what we're saying, that 2020 may not really be realistic, but once you figure roughly, you don't need to keep an alarm of it. Once you just realize, I must have been working for an hour and a half too, you could just take your eye off, like I said, just look somewhere in the periphery, distance, or shut the eyes for 2-3 minutes. That brief break actually rests the mechanisms of the eye, the focus, and then go back, it's like fresh eyes looking again. And then blinking, because when you're concentrating, you may not blink as frequently. You just need to sort of remind yourself, if you can, to blink, because otherwise the view starts getting blurry and the focus mechanisms are under pressure. And then the right posture. So if you're able to do these things, the right posture, the right view with your glasses or not, the right viewing distance, and rest your eyes, blink, that should enable you to work for this long without feeling all those. You see, the thing about this computer vision syndrome is you will know if you're suffering from it. That's why I gave you the symptoms. So once you keep having neck ache, upper neck ache, shoulder ache, dryness in your eyes and all of that, double vision, blurry, then you know something is not quite right. Once you optimize all those other conditions, and then whenever you can increase your font size, do it. So whenever you can just increase the size of what you're reading. For the religious books, you have options. You can, for instance, deliberately get a large print Quran. But if you're reading a newspaper, I'm afraid you have no, choice than to use a device to help you see it clearer. Yeah. So basically, it's just to try and follow all those, rules to help you, read more optimally. Okay. And maybe before I go, I should just quickly dispel something I've been seeing online. People forwarding post saying that some Professor Lin, who does not exist, by the way, says that you should avoid looking at your phone at night when you turn off the light and you're looking at your phone, and it causes eye cancer. We're pressed for time. Without giving you any molecular explanations, let me just tell you, it's not true. That person doesn't even exist. You can Google it up and see. But that assertion is false, and it's just scaremongering. Thank you.
I'm sure, as it said, it's human to err, isn't it? I just sitting here, just so suddenly occurred to me that I said something, I had something else in my head, but something else came out of my mouth. The question about viewing distance for TV. I'm sorry, what was playing in my house? 10 feet, not 3. Nobody wondered that I said 3 feet. I'm probably not much taller than 3 feet. So you certainly cannot be sitting 3 feet from the TV.